What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod. Quarantine edition, kind of. We're kind of past it. I guess it depends on where you're listening from. But I know where I am. I'm in stage 3 of reopening, Dave.
For
Where are you
now.
at there in Boston?
2 or 3, I don't remember. I don't actually
Yeah.
pay attention to it. I just treat it like it's still active.
Yeah, wear your mask, stay home as much as you can. Yeah, but we're bringing you your daily or your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. Pat Sheehan, Dave Martinson, as always, have a fairly good episode, although the well might be running dry soon. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end. But Dave, how you doing this week?
Doing good, man. Doing good. A24 recently announced that First Cow will be available to rent and buy digitally in the month of July, which is a new change after initial plans to re-release that theatrically. So I recommend everyone check that out in the coming weeks. Great movie.
Yes, and I think we'll be talking about First Cow and some of the other movies we like a lot on upcoming episodes, reviewing what's been good in pop culture and not so good this year. Probably next week, I'm thinking. But we got a fairly packed show. We have two musical projects. I won't call them albums because one isn't an album. We have a Ryan Murphy show. Maybe we'll have a little Ryan Murphy discussion, and then 2 movies to talk about. And why don't we start with maybe your I don't know, least favorite young rapper, 6 Lack?
Well, not a rapper. He's a singer.
Well,
R&B singer.
Whatever he is. I think this album, 6-piece Heat EP from Black, was definitely not the most engaging listen of the year for me. I found myself kind of just zoning out, and when it's only 6 tracks, 18 minutes, I expect a little bit more. I did find it to be a fairly like vibey album at times. Like there's definitely some nice flourishes, but overall, just found this to be pretty underwhelming. Did you like this one?
Oh, no, I did not. 6-piece Hot EP. Black has never vibed with me, despite the fact that he is, in fact, a vibey singer, as you said. I think the problem with Black, basically the whole time, he's got two albums that have been successful for him, 2 albums out. That vibe is just not interesting or engaging, like you said. It's very generic. It's very sleepy. The production never wows you, and I just have never really understood his appeal. I think part of it is he's a good-looking dude. I understand why ladies like him, but I just find him incredibly middle of the road when it comes to R&B, and there's just a lot more exciting options if this is what you're looking for. I don't think he's doing anything that someone else isn't doing better.
Well, I did find one song on this album or on this EP that I liked. I thought "Float" was probably the best song in my opinion. I felt like I'm pretty sure there was like a horn section, a little saxophone flourish here and there on it. And it just kind of felt like the title, like you were floating a little bit on it. So I dug that. To be honest, the rest is pretty underwhelming, and I have to say pretty forgettable. Although I have to say, Lil Baby, when he popped up, wasn't his best feature, but I still thought it was like a moment of engagement on the album. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have a lot to say. I've always really disliked his music. Like his biggest hit, "Problems," massive song for him. I don't get the appeal at all, and like he hasn't really shown much growth to me. His lyrics are what it's all about love and relationships and how he's more down with being single and putting himself and his kid first. Nothing that out of the ordinary. But I just, he has a decent voice too. I just think if he made a different kind of song, you would hear it better, but he's always just kind of washed out. And again, these really like lame beats. I don't know. It's some soft ass shit, man. I don't like it.
I know you're not big on the soft stuff. Anything on here that you thought was even decent? No.
Just listen to The Weeknd.
Is this your worst or least favorite album of the year or record?
Well, that's a tough one.
Out of the ones we've reviewed, I can't remember you being this down. But there's just nothing good to say.
No, yeah, maybe. Summer
Ah,
Walker has an EP coming out on the 10th. Uh, that's another R&B singer that I think just brings a lot more to the table. I just really don't know what Black brings to the table. And maybe if he wasn't as popular, I wouldn't feel so strongly about it. But it's almost like because he's a successful artist, I just don't understand why. And that's why I have a strong reaction. I don't know.
well, Black 6-piece Heat EP, not not good. As Anthony Fantano might say, but an album I thought was actually very good. Dave was HAIM's third album, Women in Music Part 3.
That's right.
We reviewed HAIM's last album, Something to Tell You, back when we were, I don't know, just starting off the podcast, just young
Audio only
podcasters.
days.
And man, gotta say, I feel like that album we felt like was a bit of a mess, not totally, not like a cohesive image or plan. And Days Are Gone, I think, was like a flash. There were flashes, moments, The Wire,
Yeah.
songs that really stood out, but not like as a cohesive project. Women in Music Part 3, third album from this group, obviously, feels like them, as we talked about other artists this year, leveling up as a group, really finding a more cohesive sound that kind of consistently moves through their music, even as they kind of test out these new genres on here.
Mm-hmm.
And it also felt like the songwriting was just a lot more personal, but flowery, more metaphorical than in the past. And I found myself really digging the track to track movement on this album. How are you feeling though about HAIM, Women in Music Part 3?
Yeah, I like this a lot. Yeah, that growth is pretty evident with this one. Almost there are some more poppier songs on here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's still pop rock, but it is cool to hear them kind of branch out. And if you read some of the profiles and stuff around this, you'd see that the Haim sisters have maybe come to understand their place in rock a little bit better, and they are more confident in their stature, and thus are more willing to do what they want, which is obviously a really cool attitude that you want more artists to be comfortable having. And I think for the most part, it manifests really well on this, and this album that flows really well. And it's not even that short, but I think it certainly earns its runtime. So I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I really enjoyed pretty much every track. I don't think it's a perfect album. I think there might be a skip or two on here. But I gotta say, I really liked how they kind of set the vibe, and just the album is kind of framed around Los Angeles. Start the first track, Los Angeles, this kind of like jazzy feel to it, this like saxophone like kind of coming in with this little like doo 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 doo, and then they come back to that at the end. And the first song is really about it feels a lot like them kind of growing tired of LA, kind of trying to find where like the right place for home is for them. And then that last track almost feels like that longing to like be back in LA, and like that push and pull of like where they feel at home. I thought that was really good. And that last track, it's a bonus track, but Summer Girl actually has Lou Reed on the songwriting, because I think they really stole a lot of that sound for that song from Take a Walk on the Wild Side. The bass is, I think, is almost exactly the bass from that song. So I thought that was pretty awesome. There's also a lot of, I think, really cool moments of them trying out some sounds on here. Were there any songs that really stood out to you in terms of them trying out some new sounds for HAIM?
Yeah, one more thing on Summer Girl too. There's a story in Vulture about how they invited their friend Paul Thomas Anderson over to the studio to hear a demo of that song like a year or two ago. And I thought it was cool too that they have these distinct bonus tracks at the end of the album, and those are basically all the singles or older songs that we had heard, and they were just kind of thrown on there. But there actually was like a full, more sonically robust album before those bonus tracks that everyone had already heard. So I like that touch.
Well, and PTA directed, I think, the music video for Summer Girl as well.
Yeah,
so.
which is really cool. I really like the steps. I really like 3 a.m. Don't Wanna. And then even at the end, All That Ever Mattered. I think you can find there's a lot to like dig into with this album, and I think a lot to go back to. So
Yeah,
it's kind of
for
interesting
sure.
because you think of like the sisters, and you think of the music we get from them, and I think pretty solid guitars are consistent on their in
Mhm.
their discography. And then you have like what Danielle's kind of unique vocals, I
Yep.
guess, and that's still consistent on this. So it's still familiar music for HAIM fans, but I
Mhm.
think again, like we said, they began to branch out more, which again is really exciting because they're an act that I think people have been holding up in high esteem for some time and wanting to continue to deliver on that promise. So yeah, I don't see how anyone could be disappointed with this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the last time we heard Danielle Haim's vocals was on Father of the Bride last year prior to this album.
That's right.
And I think I can feel a lot of that um, influence from Vampire Weekend. Ezra Rostam produced this album. And I think songs like I had it here in my notes. I've been down. There's like a speaking part right in the middle
Yep.
that feels
Mm-hmm.
very much like it was almost taken from a Vampire Weekend song. I was like, oh, I can hear that. Now I'm in it. Has the sad poppy feel to it that's kind of distinct from the rest of the songs. And the Pitchfork review, I think had a great call where they talked about how that could have been on Lover, from Taylor Swift
Yeah.
or something like
Their
that.
friend.
Yep. So they have all these different influences coming out. They kind of jump. One song I thought was really interesting from them was "All That Ever Mattered." The ending, they kind of go into this like '80s glam rock guitar solo with like these like distorted screaming like put into it, and I thought that was just a really unique song for him. And yeah, I just thought it was really cool to see them kind of jump through genres. I mean, The Steps is like this country rock song, right? And that I guess probably feels more in line with I've Got Something to Tell You, more, their second album than the first one, but they seem to really be maturing. Um, you named some of the tracks. One track I just really liked, I don't know why, was Gasoline. I just found that song to be really infectious. I thought like the way that they kind of build it up around this like really groovy bass line and these like sparse drums, the guitar comes in with this like really groovy lick, and then these descending pianos around the chorus just was really well built. So I don't know. I feel like we'll be talking about this album more as the year goes on, but really exciting to see them moving forward as a band. Any last thoughts on this, though?
Just happy it came out. This was delayed at
Mhm.
least once due to coronavirus. Supposed to come out earlier in the spring. I want to say middle April, and they obviously delayed it when things were more dire. And then they just kind of abruptly were like, screw it, it's coming right now. Which is cool. And I think more and more artists are seeing that you can still find that moment as large blocks of the listening public have adapted to this new reality where
Yep.
traditional press is not what it is for art. I think we'll see what the numbers do with this album, but I imagine HAIM is not going to be too worried about that. Obviously, they can't lead into a tour, as we know, but
Mhm.
yeah, I'm happy it's out there.
Definitely happy it's out there. I'm wondering if you feel as happy that we got the politician season 2 out. Sorry about that. Ryan Murphy's Netflix show. We reviewed season 1 last year. Ben Platt at the helm. Gwyneth Paltrow, probably the most famous supporting actress in all of this. And yeah, I think season 1 we felt like there were some interesting moments, but overall pretty much a letdown. Season 2, where were you at? Same boat?
Yeah, so it's so interesting because this is a show that Netflix gave a 2-season order to right from the jump. Even though if you watched the title screen for either season, you'll notice that it was still a Fox TV Studios production, obviously resulting from Murphy's prior deals and whatnot. So it's not exactly like Netflix didn't like make it; they just kind of like bought the show, and that leads me to believe I don't think we're getting a season 3. But yeah, so like going into this season 2, we already knew they had made this right, regardless of the season, regardless if season 1 was like handled well. And then we knew that we're just gonna like abruptly like change everything about the show by moving out of high school into a college setting from a student body president position or whatever it was to state senate, New York State Senate, and you're just throwing Bette Midler and Judith Light into the cast in a major way. And it's like a lot of change in one season. Yet I think much like the first season of the show, the Politician just doesn't have a tone that seems to, I think, resonate with the subject matter it's trying to tackle. Like it has a lot of really over the top moments that it treats in a very serious way. And thus, I don't think there's really any comment on politics or anything with this show. So you're just kind of left with a weird thing, which is like it's a lot tougher Ryan Murphy shows. You're kind of left with something in between. And I think with the Politician, it's like, I think Ben Platt's pretty well liked, talented guy. And again, this season, he gets to do a little bit of his song and dance as a talented guy. Let him go to the piano. I did not mind that at all, by the way. But he can't elevate these scripts. Like, it's just kind of absurd.
Yeah. I feel like this show is doing the most. And it almost feels like they're trying to do too much with it. Because, just thinking about all these characters, all these different storylines, all these different moments they get. And then you have Gwyneth Paltrow, I feel like, playing a much larger role in this season in terms of the overall plot and kind of where the show might be going if there is a season beyond this. And I think probably somewhat intentionally and probably somewhat not intentionally, I don't know if there's a character I really connect with this show. They're all these very affluent white people, except for one or two characters living
Sky.
Sky, living in New York City. In the highest of positions of power that you can be for someone that age, and it's just all ridiculous. And I think that's kind of the point of this in a sense, is like to make the political nature seem ridiculous. But I think in order to really like follow a show and enjoy it, you also do need to have buy-in to some of the characters and like some of them. And I don't really know who I ended up liking here.
Yeah, I think that was a big takeaway from the first season too, is you're watching this really over the top storyline where you're riding around this high school and you're like, but look at this high school. It's these affluent California rich kids, right? It was California, I think. I don't know.
They were in California.
Yeah, these really, really rich kids, and it's like these like 1% problems. I don't like. It's hard to emphasize with them when they're also kind of dislikable as characters, right? And then this time, we have, I think one of the improvements as a character would be Infinity, Zoe Deutsch's character. I think she's just a better presence on the show. Now she's kind of transitioned into a climate activist character. But again, everything's really over the top, so it's hard to think to have like a lasting moment. But like the rest of the cast for me that we had carry over from season one, mainly everyone, Peyton's friends and campaign colleagues, right? I think none of them really make a big impression this season at all. They kind of just feel in the background. James, Sky in particular, barely involved. I guess McAfee pops up a little bit, but it just felt like they're just kind of like window dressing now. And the whole presence of Lucy Boynton's Astrid character even being in this season at all just felt completely contrived and unnecessary. It's not amounting to anything worthwhile, right? So
it seemed like they had no idea what to do with that character from the get-go. The fact that she's on the team to begin with, and then she changes sides in the first episode, then she becomes part of this throuple, and then convinces Alice to go to this retreat, this pregnant woman retreat. It's all just very all over the place. And I think they were trying to go for something with the Astrid Alice dynamic that just never totally came to fruition, seemed to be half-baked. Alice's character, I think, might have the most growth in terms of character, but that all seems to happen very quickly in the last 2 or 3 episodes, up until she kind of has this crisis of role. She's very much just in that role, and it actually seems to be kind of enjoying it and driving the ship. When you try to think about what this show is really about, and centering around Ben Platt's Peyton, it's obviously the show about what does it mean to be about a politician? Are these people as shallow and hollow as they appear to
Right.
be? What are the driving
Opportunism.
forces? Exactly. What are the driving forces that drive them to become the people that they are? And that's kind of, I guess, the one consistent throughout the season is it's kind of Peyton is put in these positions where he has to examine what it means to be him and to then choose, what decision actually embodies the person I am. But I don't actually think that's ever really defined well. And I think what it comes down to is Peyton is just that hollow. And yeah, it kind of feels a bit
You knew that since the
demoralizing.
very first episode, though,
Right.
And it's like, we haven't had any work done to change that, frame of mind. So no matter how much you might like Ben Platt as a talent, it only goes so far, right? As a result, we get less David Cornsweet, as you'd expect this season. I guess I did like
cameo.
Yeah, or the second one at the end too. He doesn't say anything. But it's
right.
like I don't mind that him being like a ghost in Peyton's head. I wish it should have mounted something. So yeah, I think my favorite stuff had to be Bette Midler and Judith Light, man, just because they're almost always together, but they just seem to really be having a lot of fun on this show. And in a sense, they almost are helping remind the viewer how ridiculous you're seeing everything is, that this kid is actually like running for state senate with no qualifications and all that, right?
Yep.
So I enjoy their presence in the show, and like the whole stuff with the thruples and the over reliance of saying the word thruple out loud in the early going. That shit was pretty ridiculous to me too, right? And like you have on the other side of that, we have this whole thing with Dee Dee's vice president hopefulness, right? And she's gonna ride into the sunset with some guy who looks like Dan Crenshaw with two eyes, like, and then that guy just totally leaves the show a few episodes in when like his character, something happens with his character. So it's like it's just messy, man. And they intentionally leave the season open at the end for a season 3. But I just don't see what the point of that would be, because we haven't had any like success nailing a tone and nailing any kind of true comment about the obviousness of political ambition that the show has pointed out in graphic fashion since day one, so it's got to be a disappointment, I think, for anyone who's watched all of it.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly disappointing. You mentioned the part where Peyton sings in the bar at, I think the last episode or second to last episode. And I mean, just kind of random, like you're just like, we got Ben Platt, we got to make him sing at some point. Let's put him in this bar singing and put Judith Light and Bette Midler in there as well.
Yeah.
And it almost kind of feels like, why pick Ben Platt to play this character? I guess you needed somebody that looks younger, and Ben Platt can play, I think, a little bit younger than his age.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. That's still the case, right? He's about 30, like 31, and he's playing a 20-something year old.
Yeah, 22, 23-year-old, something like that. But it just feels like a waste of his talent to have him like traditionally acting for most of the time. Just wanted to talk quick about Ryan Murphy. I mean, we've seen a couple of shows from him. We talked about Hollywood earlier this year. This is obviously second season of Politician. The shows he's made for Netflix. Got a huge deal from Netflix to be creating content. Where are you at with him? I feel like he might be the most overrated creator out there right now.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of been the thing. He's always been overrated from a critical standpoint, but he's made popular shows almost the whole time. He's been a major creator, producer. So it depends what you're evaluating him on. Right. Like I think apart from American Crime Story, he hasn't really made anything super well lauded. But
Pose, I'd say, I guess.
Oh, and Pose, true, and Pose. Yeah. And maybe the first season American Horror Story, something like that. But then again, American Horror Story's been on almost a decade and it still does a really good rating, And Glee was a huge phenomenon, even if it kind of fell off a cliff after the first few seasons,
Scream Queens.
I ride for Scream Queens. That actually wasn't that big of a hit. 911, which is on Fox still, that's done pretty well for him. So
as I'm looking through, I feel like that might be a hasty statement to make, but maybe he's not the most overrated. Because looking here, I mean, Pose last year was an Emmy darling. You had I think it had a couple of Emmy wins. So
yeah, Billy Porter won.
Yeah, I think it's just this. I think it's just a sense that whenever I watch his stuff and tune in, I'm pretty underwhelmed by it. But like you said, it's popular stuff, and people really seem to dig his style. So Netflix, I think, knows what they're doing. Probably getting more return than I'm giving them credit for. But I think I'm just marred by these shows that feel like they could be so much more falling so flat recently.
And kind of my question too is, if you've watched Politician season 2 since it came out 2 Fridays ago, it seems like it's been in their top 10 shows nearly the whole time. But I always wonder, are people like really tuned in to watch this show, or is it just in the top 10 because it's been plastered on the front page of Netflix and thus being thrown in front of tons of people that are just trying it out? We don't know that. Netflix doesn't give us that kind of insight. So in a sense, I don't know if we could ever know if Ryan Murphy is worth the money to Netflix.
Right.
Because in a sense, if they can make anything be watched, then why spend a lot of money when you can make shit like Floor is Lava, which has a really low production budget, yet is their number one show right now.
Easy.
We don't know, but Netflix definitely does, and they've given out a lot of big deals to people beyond Murphy, so I guess it's working for them.
Well, from one politician to another, or are they? Out in Wisconsin, we're
twist.
We're going to Jon Stewart's first directorial debut.
I think it's his second movie, actually.
Second.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, hold
Yeah,
on.
he's. It's his first in a while. I thought he directed something else. Where is it? Rosewater. Yes, 2014. Written, directed, and produced by Jon Stewart.
Is that an original? Yeah. Or is that a documentary?
Yeah, it's about Iran. I have not seen it. Interesting.
Well, Jon Stewart's first known project to the masses, I say. But no, second film, Irresistible, starring Steve Carell, supporting actress Rose Byrne. You got Mackenzie Davis in this.
Mm-hmm.
Fairly stacked
Chris Cooper,
cast.
Come on, man.
I mean, you got a couple of really cool cameos too. You have Topher Grace, Tasha Leone.
Yep.
I think there's a couple others I'm forgetting at the moment, but overall, it's a pretty stacked cast. A lot of people obviously want to be a part of this, support Jon Stewart, very popular person in the political comedy, popular culture sphere. I was looking forward to this. I thought this, Jon Stewart's got a very good perspective, especially on politics, probably has a lot to say. And I found Irresistible to be pretty underwhelming, mostly because I didn't find the story to be super engaging. And I think also following Carell and Rose Byrne playing these like political operatives who are trying to push their parties forward and are just very grimy Washington DC types, just is a tough people to get behind when you also have these middle America normal ass people who are also very attractive and good looking and nice and probably could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but instead we get Steve Carell being a Democratic sleaze. How'd you feel about Irresistible?
Yeah, so as I think everyone knows, Jon Stewart's been retired for a few years now from The Daily Show. Trevor Noah took his place. And apart from, I think when he made some waves advocating on behalf of 9/11 first responders and survivors and stuff like that, he's kind of been, retired, which is fine and what we expect. But have him come back and make something that's some kind of political drama, there is inherently something riding on that, just because Jon Stewart, when he was in the game, was a thoughtful guy who made a lot of waves, right, for many years. Yet Irresistible is just out of touch in terms of presenting any kind of viewpoint, right? Like, wait, our lead character in this movie is a Clinton veteran? Really?
Yeah.
That was the guy we picked? Like, the whole point of view of this movie, which goes so far out of its way to be nonpartisan, like it's like, oh, see, this is it. This movie is for people that are enthusiastic about Joe Biden, right? Actually pro Biden, not so much anti-Trump. It's like what is our point of view here? I also, from the trailers, expected Rose Byrne to have a much larger presence on the show. I actually thought she was quite good in this as a almost Kellyanne Conway satire. I don't know. Her butting heads with Carell was enjoyable and fun, but she's not in the show in the movie all that much. And there's kind of like a late 11th hour twist in terms of the story of Irresistible, and then seeing where that twist actually goes, and like what's our takeaway supposed to be? A comment about the media and polarization. I mean, it's like like nothing was said, and I was just going in expecting this to either be funnier given the people involved, or actually have some kind of point of view that wasn't immediately out of date in 2016.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, it goes out of its way to be nonpartisan in a lot of ways, but it also, I mean, I think similar to The Politician, is trying to highlight the ridiculousness of politics and this, take this small town where there's like 500 people and they're using advanced analytics and pouring all this super PAC money in there, and it feels so overwrought with heavy-handed metaphor about what it's trying to say about the political system. And you have Carell, who we've talked about him recently with Space Force, and some good movies, some bad things he's made recently. I feel like he was having a decent time, but also was pretty meh in a lot of ways. And like you said, Rose Byrne stood out. I thought Mackenzie Davis, with what she had to work with, was pretty delightful, might be a good word. And Chris Cooper, I think, also seems to be really crushing that old man role that he just keeps getting cast in as an older man now. But just this movie was pretty lackluster in so many ways. And subtlety, I don't know if that's Jon Stewart's I don't know, his forte right now.
And like when the movie ends too, and you see what were their names? The two Phils, the two guys with the same name from the town. I forgot. They're like talking, and then they're like, "Oh no, it's like that's a great metaphor." Oh, actually, it's a simile. And it's like, "Hey, look, see, people from the Midwest are smart too." It's like, really, like that's what we're going with. The Middle America people outsmarted the coastal elites. That's all you got. Really?
Right.
It just didn't actually seem that intelligent at the end of the day. And Carell's character is immediately set up. You're watching it and you're like, oh wow, this guy really is out of touch as fuck. And we're supposed to watch him become slightly less out of touch after going through this albeit ridiculous story. Like that, and then like I don't think anyone's that excited to watch a Clinton vet get woker. Like, I don't know. It's just.
Does he even get woker? I mean,
no, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Yeah, having these fantasies and ending up with with Rose Byrne. So I guess it's kind of like the Kellyanne Conway and what's his name? George Conway, of the political world. Mackenzie Davis's character in this, which I find kind of funny. She's 28, 29, supposed to be.
Yeah.
Goes on to be mayor of this town. Isn't she probably just going to end up in the same political system that these two are trying to churn out anyway? Like a 29-year-old mayor in Wisconsin probably is going to be fast tracked onto some level, like kind of like The Politician, onto some level of I don't know. I feel like like having her end up being the mayor in the long run is probably just saying like, oh yeah, like she's gonna end up in the same system down the road. Was just my take on it, even though she fights for this small town. I don't know, just the whole thing just felt very absurd to me, I guess.
Yeah, definitely big disappointment, man. Just
anything you did really like?
Yeah, I did like seeing the brief jaunt over to New York to Glad Hand for some donations, but again, it's kind of obvious plotting. Like it's not like nothing really surprising, but I like Chris Cooper a lot in this, and as you said, he's kind of on a decent run of late with Homecoming season 2 and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So
Yes.
that's fun to see. And again, I like Byrne a lot. I think between this role and then of course Mrs. America, she's having a good 2020 from a career standpoint, which is nice. And yeah, Mackenzie Davis is in general just really good presence, even if her roles or whatever. So yeah, this is a movie actually I was going in pretty blind to, just to and it definitely did not warrant that level of discretion on my part, just because it's whatever at the end of the day, and tough to recommend given the initial high rental price.
Well, Dave, let's move on to something that might be a little bit more fun to talk about. Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga, directed by David Dobkins, who you might know from Wedding Crashers, the Gary Sanchez production. You got Will Ferrell in the lead role as Lars. You have Rachel McAdams in the co-starring role as, is it Sight? Sing?
Sure.
Yeah, something like that. The Icelandic duo who's obsessed with, or I guess you should say Lars is obsessed with the Eurovision Song Contest. Unexpectedly end up making it to it, and hilarity ensues, or does it? That's what I want to ask you, Dave. Did you enjoy Eurovision?
Yeah, I did like it. I thought it was pretty fun. Could be funnier. There could have been more jokes, but I thought it was pretty fun. And what I was surprised to see with this is that the movie actually treats the Eurovision contest, the long, obviously decades-long phenomenon in Europe that is not happening in 2020. It actually treats that contest, that institution, with like respect and homage in a way. And you could see that because they put so much time and effort into creating all these original songs for this movie to be performed by the various contestants. So
with really high production, on the performances too.
So I really liked everything about that, and I actually think this is one of the, this is a far cry from anything close to Pantheon Will Ferrell, but I actually think this is his best movie in a long time. And also probably one of his better performances in a long time too, because you got to remember, like, he had Downhill come out this year before Corona. Nobody liked it. He had the Daddy's Home movies. He had Get Hard. He's had a lot of Holmes and Watson. He's had a lot of misses lately. So I think this is probably one of his better movies until we look at like the early part of the 2010s. So yeah, it's late period Will Ferrell, but I thought he was pretty funny, particularly when he was making fun of the American travelers.
Yeah, that part was really good. I didn't really love Will Ferrell in this, and that might be because I found so many of the other actors around him just like totally shining. Rachel McAdams was, I thought, awesome in this, and I really found her character to be the most engaging, besides our guy Dan Stevens, as Alexander Lentov. And man, you want to talk about charisma? This guy comes in playing the villain, and you almost kind of want Rachel McAdams to end up with him. Like at one point, I'm like, man, I kind of want this to go a totally different way than I'm expecting right now.
Right, and I think that's what's funny too, is because like this plot is ultimately very predictable but formulaic. You see the beats before they happen.
Yeah.
Yet, the affect with Dan Stevens' performance, you're like, wait, is it going where I think it's going? Yeah, it goes there. But you're like, wait a minute, like, So I actually really liked that, and like the introduction to his character in earnest when you're at that party of his, and it kind of leads into a almost Pitch Perfect-esque like sing along number, which again, really strong production values. It was kind of funny to see right before that scene a very obvious green screen moment between Stevens and Adams, where they're on the balcony overlooking Edinburgh, even though they were actually shooting in the city, yet they needed a fake green screen shot, I guess, to pick up later. Don't know. But yeah, I think in general, the production values were cool. Again, we're in Iceland, and the elves coming back with the knife later on in the story, I thought was actually laugh out loud hilarious. I didn't expect that to happen. Gonna get the Graham Norton cameo, which is nice too. He's like kind of the most underrated of those late night hosts. If you watch anything on YouTube, it seems he gets the best out of all his celebrity interviews. So I don't know. I think there's a lot here.
I agree. I think it's a fun movie. I wouldn't necessarily say it was good, but definitely a lot to, I think, enjoy. I really liked the bit with Demi Lovato, playing
Yeah.
this like star Katiana, who's obviously going to win the song contest. She's just that good. Dies in this boat explosion, then comes back as a ghost to Will Ferrell over and over, but not a very good ghost or a helpful
Yeah.
ghost, which I thought was a pretty good bit. I also there were
Can't
a
you
lot
see
of
the
like
elves killed him? Not a very good ghost.
there are also a lot of like those people in there, and one that I wanted to see if you could spot them was Kevin Swain. Did you recognize him at all?
No.
Have you? So
Is he one of
in
the Icelandic music
he was
people?
like the head of Iceland's creative team, the one who like really liked Alexander, might have
Oh, right.
actually had feelings for him.
Yes.
He's the guy with the big teeth in Fleabag season 1 that she goes on the date with and ends up
Oh,
ditching. When I saw
wow.
him, I was like, oh, I've seen that guy before, and then I spotted it a couple scenes in. But you also have the bad guy, Mikael Persbrandt, who
Hmm.
is the plumbing dad in
Sex
um,
education.
Sex Education. Yes, um, yeah. I mean, I thought this was really delightful. Even I've never heard of her before, but Melissa Anthony Mahut,
Yeah.
who played
Mita.
Mita, I thought she was really electric when she was on screen. And
So I
that
actually have
whole
heard of her before.
really,
I was looking just looking into it. She plays Cassandra in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is a very well liked
ah,
performance from 2018, the video game, of course. And she was
nice,
playing a Greek warrior then, and she's a Greek actor, and now she's playing a Greek character in the show. Kind of cool. Good for her.
definitely. And I think where when it really thrives is when it's either Stevens and McAdams on screen. The performances, like the one where they really butcher it with the wheel, and they
Yeah.
Graham Norton's like the scarf, and then just getting choked out. I thought that was really good. Or like you said, I think when they're kind of bagging on America, that was probably the other part I found
Yeah.
most enjoyable. Um, any other thoughts on this?
Yeah. I mean, Pierce Brosnan kind of
Yeah,
token presence as the disappointed dad
yeah,
of Lars, but whatever. They did make some funny jokes about how he's banged half the town and stuff, and they're like kind of making jokes at the expense of Pierce Brosnan's handsomeness, which I thought was funny. Also, the whole thing about Ya Ya Ding Dong, play Ya Ya Ding Dong, and they
mm-hmm.
actually play it second time at the end. The
Yep.
guy who was yelling that from the town played a small role on Game of Thrones. I only knew that because I recognized his actor name, Johannesson.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
yeah, I think it was pretty funny. And McAdams, I think this is another, like you said, it's a good turn from her. And we had remarked on her return to comedy in 2018 with Game Night. I think this is a continuation of that. It's cool to see her back doing, I think, some lighter stuff after spending some time in the drama dungeons. So yeah, man.
Give her more comedy roles. Really delightful. And Dan Stevens too. Give him more roles as well.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was good from him. Stan and McAdams, they did not sing in this movie. In case anyone was wondering, that was dubbed over by real, I think, European singers. And
Yeah.
but if you can read into it, they put a lot of work into making all of these songs and recordings and stuff. Which, like I said, I think is actually a nice touch for anyone who's a fan of Eurovision. They're not like lambasting anything with this movie.
For sure. Will Ferrell definitely sang though. Pretty evident.
Oh no, he did. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's like by design supposed to be bad. So
Right.
you don't have to. He's not to sell anything.
All right, Dave. Well, that wraps it up for us this week. What do we got for next week?
Next week, considering there's not much beyond the
4th of
Disney
July.
Plus Hamilton release and some small rental movies, we may get to those later. We'll be talking about 2020 thus far: movies, TV, music, coronavirus, what's been good, what's been bad, what's been delayed, all that jazz.
Coronavirus.
Been actually a good year if you've been paying attention, and if you haven't, you'll definitely want to tune in.
Yes. So tune in for that. Have a good 4th of July. Be smart, be safe, wear your masks. We'll catch you on the flip side.